Assalamu brothers and sisters, welcome to a new episode of Treasure Hunt. As we are coming to an end to the characteristics of the da'iyah and the tools that you should have in order for your da'wah to be successful. Last time I was speaking about confidence, and I'd really like to discuss this topic and elaborate on it for a little bit. I was mentioning that confidence is an extremely important tool for the da'i, and he should really have confidence and yaqeen, certainty in his own faith before he goes out and talk to people about Islam. Because, as I said, like once you start giving da'wah, a lot of people will be attacking you, and that doesn't mean that it is like malicious attacks, but it is really what people are hearing almost 24/7 on the media. Like they are bombarded with so many messages and so many accusations and so many it's amazing the amount of negativity that has been spread on the media outlets, from newspapers, magazines, radio and TV. So they're just repeating what they're hearing, and a lot of time it's really innocent. I mean, they are really sincere. They're just wondering, why is it this? Why is it that? Why you guys are, blowing up yourselves, seeking 72 virgins or whatever. So you hear these things pretty often. So a person, in order for him to give da'wah, he should really be able to explain himself. At the same time, he should have this, as I said, solid, concrete conviction about his own faith. And I recall this example, a very sad example, a Muslim brother who had lots of sincerity and a lot of passion to give da'wah and defend Islam. He used to debate Christians all the time, and he'd get into these debates and confrontations all the time. And eventually this person left Islam, and he actually turned into atheism. Someone may say, like, that doesn't make any sense. How can you go from extreme right to extreme left? It does make perfect sense, because this person, if he was lacking anything, he was lacking yaqeen about his own faith. This is why when he was attacked, his own faith was attacked. Eventually it just, planted lots of seeds of doubt and suspicion in his heart. And, from skepticism he ended, he just became atheist, from skepticism to atheism. As I said, this is really something that I consider to be really almost like a prerequisite, because you would like to share that message with people. You do not want it to affect you personally. The doctor should be healthy. Yes, he's out there to treat people, to cure people, but if he's not healthy, he will not be able to do that, right? Or those people are, contagious, and he does not take the means to protect himself from getting hurt or catching that disease, then he'll end up losing, and he'll not be able to treat others, but he actually will hurt his own self. So that being said, dear brothers and sisters, I would really, every time and I receive these kind of complaints from youth all the time, tell me that, I have certain doubts about Islam, and I feel bad for them, because they are living in the West and they are surrounded by a majority of non-Muslims. And again, the majority of those non-Muslims, according to statistics, saying that over 3/4 of the society in the US alone has negative image about Islam. And it is because of all the negative propaganda that they have been receiving, right, for so many years. So they come asking me, like, how do I know that Islam is the truth? It's so simple. I mean, I'm not going to even mention anything to you that, I'm not going to mention, because Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was the, a great model, a great example. Look at what he has done, look at his companions. And these things you may not be able to examine. You may not be able to examine our history because you did not witness it. And you may have your own doubts about it, right? But I'll give you something so simple. Science, for example. Science is almost like a universal religion. Everybody these days believes in it, right? Whether you're atheist, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, agnostic, deist, whatever might be your background. I mean, you cannot deny science, right? Look at science. Look at modern science. I remember Maurice Bucaille, the French doctor, scientist. He was actually assigned by the Egyptian government back in the 70s to analyze and research the mummy of one of the pharaohs of Egypt. And he discovered that this mummy belongs to Moses, the pharaoh of Moses. It belongs to a pharaoh from Moses' time. So the pharaoh of Moses, he actually discovered that he drowned. And basically he was able to prove that his body was actually later on recovered. And that phenomenon, because the discovery, he thought that he's making a huge discovery, because at that time, even according to the old scriptures, the Old Testament that mentioned the story of Moses, peace be upon him, and the Pharaoh, mentioned that the Pharaoh drowned and never talked about recovering his body ever. But then the Quran mentioned that his body was preserved. So this man, who was actually, again, as I said, he had no idea, or he didn't know the background of the story from the Islamic perspective, and only knew about it from the Judaic-Christian perspective. He thought that he's making a big discovery, like he's just breaking ground for something that's just never been mentioned in any of the scriptures. But then the Muslim scientists who were working with him, they told him, we already know that. It's actually mentioned in our scriptures. And subhanAllah, that portion is mentioned in Surah Yunus, the chapter of Prophet Jonah, that said, فَالْيَوْمَ نُنَجِّيكَ بِبَدَنِكَ لِتَكُونَ لِمَنْ خَلْفَكَ آيَةً. SubhanAllah, Allah, after he mentioned the drowning of the Pharaoh of Egypt, the one who chased Moses and the Israelites out of Egypt, and then Allah drowned him in the Red Sea. He said, today we shall preserve your body so that you'll remain as what? As ayah. SubhanAllah, an ayah here, it means as an example, so that people would learn, people will take admonition from your example. You were the Pharaoh who claimed to be God. You are the Pharaoh who ruled the empire of Egypt. You're the most powerful man, and everything that you had now is gone, and you went from being a god, a self-proclaimed god that was worshipped by the Egyptians. Now you're just a dead mummy. So that really inspired him to start researching, and he was really astonished and amazed by such fact, because he was like, how in the world did the Quran know about this? How did Prophet Muhammad find out about this, right? So that inspired him to start making a research. And I really advise all my brothers and sisters in Islam and in humanity to really research that book. It's called Bible, Quran and Science. Bible, Quran and Science by Maurice Bucaille. And actually this book is written back in the 70s, and it's so amazing how he put all the scientific facts together, how he compared every scientific fact in the Bible as an Old Testament and New Testament, meaning Torah, Gospel, to the Quran, from just a scientific perspective, nothing more or less. And his conclusion at the end of his book, after he compared all the facts, that a lot of the scientific facts in the Bible, Old and New Testament, they actually did not comply or did not match modern science, and a lot of times they totally were against modern science, And he said that every scientific fact that is mentioned in the Quran is compliant, matches and goes with modern science and discoveries. And later on, after writing this book, and again, until he finished that book, he was a non-Muslim. But then later on, he chose to become a Muslim. I mean, there's just hundreds of verses in the Quran. I mean, the scholars, this is about 300 verses in the Quran that talk about science. And we have at least 10 of them are very comprehensive, very clear, like crystal clear, talking about scientific facts, like, for example, how the earth was believed back then it was flat. But then Allah mentioned that the earth is round and has a sphere shape. وَالْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ دَحَاهَا, how He actually turned the earth, that planet into a sphere shape, like a shape of an egg, or a round shape, basically. So goes from there to how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the mountains as pegs to strengthen the structure of the crust of the earth, to make it stable. As the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the hadith that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the earth, its crust was shaky, basically was not stable. So what Allah did, He created mountains to stabilize it. وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا, and the Quran confirms that too. In one of the verses it says وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا, as mountains are pegs. This is a very comprehensive scientific fact. Mentioned to that the rotation of the sun and the moon, how the وَكُلٌّ فِي فَلَكٍ يَسْبَحُونَ, how they rotate in orbits. SubhanAllah, astronomy. The Quran talked about very sophisticated sciences, from astronomy to embryology to geology to archaeology, and SubhanAllah, we can talk about these facts for so many episodes. Just to mention again, these are scientific facts that nobody can deny. Just shows us the beauty of Islam, how it's just based on truth, that not just blind faith, but based on facts. It is the only faith that you can prove by facts, not by just blind faith. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.